Hey game designers! I am going to talk today about pivot tables in spreadsheets. I'll primarily be working in Excel, but I will show a bit of Google Sheets later on. I'll give the timestamp in the description. Alright, so let's say you're a game designer and we're making a game about cats. This is a fake data set that I made up for a fake game that doesn't exist, but maybe it will someday. And this is the sort of thing that maybe you as a designer would keep to track the different cats in your game. So, there's the cat's name and the type, which is like the archetype of the cat. There's 7 different types of cats, and maybe like the tabbies are like the tanks, and the solids are like DPS or something like that. So the main types of cats, and then other attributes like, hair length or age or, favorite toy, like things that might have gameplay impact on how these cats work. And then you have power level maybe, because there's different cats that are more powerful than others. And let's pretend this is a live game, and so, we're keeping track of which seasons which cats were released in over time. So maybe what you are doing as a designer is it's a new season and you have to decide, what cats you're going to make this season. So you want to look at what you've made so far so you can make good decisions. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this a real table. So you can select all. Control A will select all the data. Go in the Home tab and up here to Format as Table. Now, tables in Excel aren't just a way to make your data look pretty, although, I'm going to pick this lovely shade of blue, but it's not just for that. It'll show you the data range, say my table has headers, and it'll make it into something like this, where now the headers can be, filtered or sorted or, what have you. But making it a table also lets you do other things in Excel, like reference it directly in formulas and make pivot tables. So the first thing I'm going to do after this is I'm going to give the table a name. You'll notice that if you click anywhere in your new table, you'll get this extra menu. And you can go up here and give it a name, cat data table. I like to do this because I always regret it when I don't name my stuff. All right, so we're going to make a new sheet for our pivot tables. So I'm going to go up here to Insert and choose Pivot Table. It's going to ask what data I want to analyze, and this is where, I can just put cat data table, call it by name, rather than trying to go and select the range of data. So now it pops in this thing, and I'm going to give this a name. Always name your stuff. Cat pivot table. When you select it, it's empty right now, but when you select it, you'll notice over here on the right, what it's doing is it's looking at this data, and it's looking at each column, and it's creating, unique fields based on the column. So we can go in here and be like, okay, you can drag any of these fields into these 4 places. So, for example, if we drag type down here into rows, it'll tell us, what all our different types are. It looks at this column and it finds the unique entries in it. And then we can also, drag it into values, and it'll tell us, how many of each type we have. Looks like we have a lot of solids and a lot of tabbies. We only have 1 tortoiseshell. So, maybe for season 5, we should introduce another tortoiseshell because we only have 1. You can also look at other things, like, for example, let's say, okay, well, when was this tortoiseshell released? You can drag this over here into columns, and it'll now break it down. Now it'll break down the type and the season. So as we can see, this tortoiseshell released in season 1. So it has definitely been a while since we've seen a tortie. We should definitely make one. But we can also see that calicos haven't made a showing in a while, and, even though these guys, they're just like a few are here and there, but maybe another tuxedo would be nice. You can also look at other things, like maybe, I'm going to get rid of this, Maybe you're interested in the breakdown of favorite foods. You know, like, not very many cats you like rabbit, so maybe when we make this new tortoiseshell, it should have rabbit as a favorite food. You know, stuff like that. It also has this filter box, which you can drag things in. Like maybe we only want to look at, you know, it'll when you drag it here, it'll put a little filter up here, so you can say, oh, let's just look at kittens. What's our kitten breakdown look like? But I like to use slicers for filters because I just find them easier to use. Now, a slicer, it basically takes these fields and it makes buttons out of them based on the content in each field. So what I'm going to do is select my pivot table. You know, as with the other table, you'll notice when you select anywhere in the pivot table, you get these extra menu items up here. Design is just how it looks. Analyze has various tools. We're going to go over here to Insert Slicer. Now, you can select what slicers you want. I'm going to look at type, hair, sex, age, favorite food, toy, temperament, and season release. I'm going to make a bunch of slicers for all of these. And now we have like a bunch of buttons. Let me zoom out. Basically, it has taken each section and it has made a button for each unique entry in that section. So now, you know, when I'm looking at my, you know, type to food chart, and I'm like, well, I just want to look at, you know, kittens, and then quickly switch to senior cats, you just click on the button, and it will automatically filter it. And this is great for if you want advanced filters, like maybe we just want to look at kittens and we want to look at the last 2 seasons. And we can see, oh, there were no kittens in season 3. And there was only 2 in season 4. So, you know, maybe we need some more kittens. Or maybe let's look at, you know, let's look at the last 2 seasons. You can say, you know, definitely we haven't seen any cats that like rabbit in a while, so we should make a cat that likes rabbit. These are just very nice to quickly and visually, you know, change around your data. And it's basically just ways that takes this data set and makes it easy to visualize. Some other things to show. Down here in the value, if you drag anything with a string, it'll just default to like a count of that type. So it's like, oh yeah, you have five tabby cats. But you can also look at other stuff. So for example, let's look at power level. By default, it sums whatever is in here if it's a number, which isn't really helpful for us. You can go in here to value field settings. Let's look at average. Let's look at average power level for all our cats. And I'm just going to, you know, reset all our filters. So we can just sort of see the average power level. I think this is in the middle. Actually, let me look at how many. I see the distinct power levels. Okay, so we have 6 distinct power levels. So I'm going to go back here, change this back to average. So it looks like we're pretty good. You know, maybe bicolors are a little low, you know, and calicos and torties are right in the middle. But then let's look at, you know, this is for the whole game. Let's look at what was just released in season 4. You know, there were some pretty powerful color points, solids, and tabbies. There were no torties, and the bicolor was a little weak. So you can sort of, you know, that's just one other way you can look at values in the pivot table. You can also look at this with charts. So, for example, if you click on the pivot table, go up to Analyze, you can choose Pivot Chart, and you can create a chart based on whatever data is in this table, and that chart will change depending on your filter. So now we're looking at like a nice little graph. This will change, you know, whenever we, you know, change the filter. And if we're like, okay, we're going to look at types and the favorite food again, then now, you know, it puts the food in the column, and it makes, let me make this real big, it makes a chart on what its best guess is. Actually, instead of favorite food, let's look at age, because there's only 3 of them. It'll be a little easier to see. So, it's like, oh, here, we only have 1 tortie kitten. We don't have too many kittens. We have a lot of adults, though. Look at how many adults we have. We definitely should maybe think about adding more seniors and kittens to our game and fewer adults. And you can format this to be, different types of charts if you want like a pie chart or whatever. Okay, so great. So that's, again, a pivot table is just a way of looking at a data set in many different ways to answer questions you might have about your game. So I'm going to jump over to Google Sheets and show you how to do the same thing. Disclaimer, I'm not as well versed in Google Sheets as I am in Excel. So there might be like better ways to do this, but this is just the basics of how to get a pivot table. So again, I have my data set here on a sheet. Excel or Sheets doesn't have a way to like define tables, but it is really smart about figuring out what data you want to pick. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. I think it's fine. So let's go to. So we won't have to like do anything to this. We can just leave it as is. Go to a new sheet. We're going to go to Data and Pivot Table. And let's just put it here in this sheet. And it's asking for a data range. So when you go to select the data range, see how it suggests, it's like, oh, there's this big data range sitting over here. It suggests it's pretty good about like finding your data. Okay, so it looks different than Excel, but it's basically the same stuff. You have the ability to select what you want in the rows, columns, values, and filters. So like in the rows, we can add the type of cat and the values. We can also do type and do it as count, and you can see, we have the same thing we had in Excel. So you can do like the same sort of stuff. It's just, it looks different. It's a little different format. You can also make slicers in Excel, which I believe is relatively new. So under data, you go down to slicer, and it looks a little different. It'll make this thing and you can move it around, and it'll have you select the column you want. So let's just do like favorite toy. I don't know. And then like inside of here, you can, change the filter of like, let's just look at laser pointers, So you can do the same things. It's just slightly different. But it's still a very useful tool for analyzing your data set. So with that, I'm going to do a little example. So like I said, let's say we're going to make the new cats for season 6. And so, when we were just looking around the data, we realized, oh, we definitely need another tortoise shell. Actually, when was the last time a tortoise shell was even released? Let's look at seasons released. Season 1. So we haven't had a tortoise shell in the game since season 1. Oh my gosh. Definitely time for another tortie. Alright, so I'm going to go here, and this is my data table, and I'm going to enter a new row. And maybe you do this manually, or maybe you keep your data in another database somewhere and you just export it periodically, whatever. I forgot to make this automatic. Oh well, I can do it manually for now. So we'll give this cat a name, call it Muffin. Going to make a tortie. All right, so now I'm like, okay, now let's see what we've done before. So let's go back to here. Let's look at hair types. And in the past, the tortie that we had last was a long hair tortie. I don't know, do long hair torties exist? I don't know if they exist. Whatever, it's a game. So we definitely want to go short or medium. And then if we just look at, the past season, we released a lot of short hair or long hairs. Not very many short hairs. Let's do medium hair. So we'll make this tortie medium hair. Last tortoise shell was was, where are we? Torty was female. I don't know if you can actually have male tortoiseshells in real life, but this is a game, so we're gonna make a male since we had a female last time. And so on and so forth. Since there was only one other one, you could conceivably just go find the entry in here and look for it. But if you had multiple of the same type, it helps to look at them all together. So, I'm just gonna put some other stuff. We're gonna make it. We said we needed more kittens and adults. Make it adult. We said we wanted more rabbit. What's our toy situation look like here? Let's look at our toys. Favorite toy. Let's see. We have a lot of strings. Let's chill on the strings for a while. Maybe catnip mouse, laser pointer, twist tie. See what we just released. It's not very many twist ties. Let's do another twist tie. Actually, let's see what we released in season 3. Okay. So we did release some twist ties in season 3. But we did not release a catnip mouse. We only did 2 here. So let's just do catnip mouse. Sure. Catnip mouse. And let's look at our temperament sheet. Temperament. I grok looking at numbers a lot easily. Maybe you're the sort of person who would prefer the visual. So let me just put the chart back in here. It just sort of depends on what you like. So let's see. We got our game totals. We have a lot of shy cats and a lot of chill. Okay, so chill and shy cats need a break. Maybe clingy or grumpy. Let's see what we just released. We did a grumpy one last season, so let's do a clingy. Let's do a clingy cat. And then, since this is a new season, I'll go ahead and give it the cat power level. All right, so that's an example of how you might use a pivot table to look at your existing data to get a feel for what content is in your game already, and use that to help you figure out what you should add to it. I'm going to stop this video for now, but I will make another video after this with another example that's, slightly different tangent. Otherwise, enjoy your pivot tables.